Hi everybody, and this is a completing the square video, and we're going to go through a number of things. And big shout out to Kay, you know who you are, this is for you. What we're going to be looking at is firstly when I've got a quadratic that hasn't got a number in front of it. I'm going to be looking at one that has got a number in front of it, the coefficients. This is where a equals 1 and a is greater than 1, and we're also going to be looking at factorising, solving and turning points. And because this video is going to be reasonably long, what I would do is I will make sure that I put some bookmarks in so you can just jump to the bit you want to do. So the first thing is that if I look at this type of quadratic that hasn't got anything other than, well, as you know, it's just not written, but there's a 1 there in the front, I could write the general form of that quadratic in the format of x squared plus bx plus c. Now what's great is that with completing the square I can write that directly into completed square format. So I complete the square, that's my abbreviation for it, to x plus b over 2 squared minus b over 2 squared plus c. Now I know that looks a bit fussy, don't worry about it, it's actually relatively easy. So let's have a go now, and I'm going to use my example up here. So we'll have x squared plus 6x and we'll have the plus 11. Now top tip here is that what I do is I pull out of the formula that I'm going to complete the square on, I pull out b. And you might go, well, it's easy, it's 3 and it's going to be 9, but you'll see why this becomes important when we deal with something like 2x squared plus 12x plus 1. So b is 6, b over 2 equals 3, and b over 2 squared equals 9. Now I just have to put these values into the completed square format. So I'm going to have x plus b over 2, which is 3 squared, then minus b over 2 squared minus 9 plus 11, that's the c value. A little bit of a tidy up, and I've got x plus 3 squared plus 2, and that is factorised, and it's factorised in the complete the square format. Well, what do I do if I've got something with this 2 in front of it? Can I do the same thing? Well, the short answer is no, I can't. And what I have to do is I have to do another step. So if I've got 2x squared plus 12x plus 1, the first thing I need to do is to do a sort of factorisation of the quadratic. And as I say, there are other methods available, but this is the one I use. So in factorising it, I'm going to write 2 and I'm going to put a square bracket, and that square bracket, we'll see why it's a square bracket in a minute. What goes in the middle here? Well, I'm only going to factorise the first 2 terms. So it's going to be x squared and it's going to be 6x, and then I'm going to close that bracket. Now what you will now notice is that this bit in here, x squared plus 6x, well, that's in that format of x squared plus bx plus c. You'll notice there's no c value in here, but that doesn't matter. But what it means is that I can complete the square on x squared plus 6x in this format that I've got over here. Nice and easy. Let's do that then, and I'll colour code as I go. So the first thing is I've got the 2 and this square bracket. Now inside I'm going to have x plus, well, what am I going to have? Well, let's just make a note. B equals 6, b over 2 equals 3, b over 2 squared equals 9. So it's going to be x plus 3 squared minus 9. Now there's no c in here. Be careful. I'm not doing the original equation. I'm only doing what's inside the bracket, only in the square bracket. That's the big thing to note. And then, because I've finished, there's no value of c, I can shut that bracket and the plus 1. Now I'm just going to expand out. 2 times x plus 3 squared is 2x plus 3 squared. 2 times minus 9 is minus 18. And this plus 1 isn't in the bracket, it doesn't get expanded. So I've got the 1 there. Bit of a tidy up. Gives me that. And that also now is in a factorise completed the square format. So we've done what we need to do, and we've got either a simple quadratic or a more complicated one factorised. That's that bit done. What do I have to do to solve? Well, let's see what we do to solve now. So I'm going to use x squared plus 2x minus 5 equals 0. And the first thing we're going to do is factorise this. We're just going to remember here that we've got this whole thing of if I've got x squared plus bx plus c equals 0, then I can turn that straight into x plus b over 2 squared minus b over 2 squared plus c. So let's do that with this. Firstly, noting that b equals 2, so b over 2, it's going to be nice and easy, isn't it, equals 1, and b over 2 squared equals, well, it's still 1. So let's put that into completed square format. It's going to be x plus b over 2, 1 squared minus b squared, so minus 1, and then we've got the c at the end, minus 5 equals 0. So that means I've got x plus 1 squared minus 6 equals 0 equals 0. And that means that we are now factorised, but we want to solve. So to solve it, all I'm going to do is rearrange this equation. So to rearrange the equation, the first thing I'm going to do is to add 6 to both sides, get x plus 1 squared equals 6. Now I'm going to square root both sides. Square root of that bracket is therefore just what it is, x plus 1. I've got to be a bit careful here. I've got square root of 6, but it's square root of a number. I get a plus or minus value. And now all I'm going to do is minus 1 from both sides. And I end up with x equals minus 1 plus or minus root 6, which means I've got two solutions here. I've got x equals minus 1 minus root 6, or I've got x equals minus 1 plus root 6. And in your exam or whatever you're doing, you might leave it like this, or you might possibly put it into a calculator. Okay, what do I do now if I've got something that's not something that's just x squared? Well, what we'll do is we'll have a go at 2x squared minus 12x plus 7 equals 0, and we're going to solve this. But remember, we've got to do that intermediate state. So the first thing I'm going to do is just factorise this quadratic. 2 square brackets x squared minus 6x, close the bracket, plus 7 equals 0. Now the bit in the middle is in its format that it can be completed in or changed into completed square. I'll just colour code that. So that's going to be x. What's my value of b? Oh, well, actually here b is minus 6. So b over 2 is minus 3. And b over 2 squared is 9. Okay, so that's going to be x plus b over 2, which is minus 3 squared. What do I have to do? Oh, it's minus b over 2 squared, so b over 2 squared is 9, so it's minus 9. And remember, again, we're only completing a square for what's in the bracket. There is no value of c. So shut the bracket, plus 7 equals 0. Tidy it up, and I've got 2x minus 3 squared minus 18 plus 7 equals 0. Now all I'm going to do here is sort out the minus 18 plus 7. So I'm going to have 2x minus 3 squared, and that's going to give me minus 11 equals 0. And now I've finished. That's again, this is the factorised version. Now all I'm going to do is solve it by rearranging. So the first thing we're going to do is plus 11 on both sides. So I get 2x minus 3 squared equals 11. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 2. That's going to leave me with x minus 3 squared equals 11 over 2. And now I'm going to square root both sides. I wrote square root as 2, that's wrong. Square root both sides. That's going to leave me with x minus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 11 over 2. Then I'm going to add 3 to both sides, and I end up with x equals 3 plus or minus root 11 over 2. And I've solved it. And again, you might leave it like this in surd form, or you might use your calculator and it will all be sorted out. Okay, what's left? Well, what's left is turning points. Now, with everything that we've done for turning points, we have ended up with our complete the square format in one of two ways. It's either been in a format where we've ended up with x plus p squared plus q, and that was generated from when we had things in the format of x squared plus bx plus c, or we've had some number in front, ax squared plus bx plus c, and in that case we end up with the format of a x plus p squared plus q. And there is a reason for this. I'm not going to necessarily go into it, but the turning point is going to be, in both cases, the turning point is going to be minus p q. So whatever value you've got in there, you change the sign and you just keep the sign of what's in there, and that's the turning point. And that's it. That's all of the points that I said I would cover: turning points, solving, and factorising.